Welcome to This Week in Disney YouTube with the one and only Mr. Theme Park Conductor. We are reacting to not one, but two fresh baked videos about Monsters Inc., the delay, and also the new park hopping rules coming to the Disneyland Resort. This news dropped a few days ago for both of these things, Monsters and the park hopping. Great stuff. Dave, again, makes great content in regards to both of these topics. We're going to watch both videos, break them down this week on Disney YouTube with Theme Park Conductor. Let's get it. Welcome to another episode of This Week on Disney YouTube with my wonderful co-host and collaborator, Mr. Theme Park Conductor. We are reacting to two videos from the one and only Dave from Fresh Baked. This is a series we have here on the channel. We take content from creators in our community, in our space that we respect and admire, and we react to their amazing content. Today will be Dave. Last week was the lovely Miss Emily Enchanted and Christian Harloff. So every week is different. Conductor, it's always a pleasure having you on, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I cannot be any more excited to go to Walt Disney World for my very first time in several days from now. And my God, there's going to be so much to cover. But one of the most magical things about it is it's going to be mine and Tommy Toon World's first time going out there. So there's just going to be so much to see, analyze, break down, and I cannot wait to come back after the 2 weeks I'm down there and really dive deep with the one and only Orange Grove 55.
I'm telling you, it's going to be fun to have you back and talk shop with you. But where can everybody find you on social media?
Absolutely. You can find me on YouTube and Blue Sky at Theme Park Conductor, on Instagram at theme_park_conductor, on X at Theme Conductor, TikTok at Theme Park Conductor 1, and every Sunday at 5 or 7 p.m. for Conductor Sunday live stream, where we have amazing guests like the one and only Orange Grove 55 and so many others. As we talk speculation, we talk rumors about the parks, we interact with the chat interacts with us. And this coming Sunday will be my last Conductor Sunday live stream before I go on the trip. And I have two items that I have created for my channel that I will debut, that will be shipped out when I get back into town for channel members. So if you want to become a member, you could check that out on Theme Park Conductor on YouTube.
There is information down below to subscribe to Mr. Conductor and to become a member on his channel. All right, Conductor, let's go ahead and dive in. We got Mr. Dave from Fresh Baked. Two great videos. One about Monsters Inc. getting delayed. The other one is about park hopping, the new park hopping rules. This video is called The Real Reason Monsters is Delayed. This is from Dave's secondary channel. Okay. A lot of people maybe they don't realize that Dave actually does have two channels. This is secondary channel. I will be linking this channel and his main channel in the description down below if by chance you live under a rock and have not subscribed to Fresh Baked yet. I mean, come on. If you're a Disney fan, you got to be subscribed to Fresh Baked. You know what I'm saying? Down below, make sure you do that if you are not. But especially his secondary channel, because maybe, all joking aside, maybe people aren't aware of the secondary channel. And he does great stuff over there as well. But Conductor, you ready to rock and roll?
Let's do it.
Here we go.
Be closed now. They got to build Avatar. But now Disney's saying they're not going to close the Monsters Inc. ride for another year. Now, this is bad, right? Bad for Avatar anyway. Are there maybe issues with the city? Did they maybe change their mind about what they want to build in that space? Or are they waiting for something else to be finished, something else to happen before they start the Monsters Inc. demo? Answering those three questions is going to give us a better idea of what's happening at the Hollywood backlot. Let's get to work. Now, this is when I first heard this, I'm like, my goodness, are you serious? They're going to wait another year? That seems like a long time to delay a project. You know, we've been asking for a while now. I thought we were going to get a date and then we didn't get anything. And now we're here in February and I'm like, what? It is very, very curious, and that's something that Disney management or Disneyland management has already alluded to. This day and age, with social media and influencers and everybody covering Disney, with with laser sharp focus, they can't be indirect anymore. They can't get away with just not saying anything. They're going to have to. People want to know what's happening. They promised this thing, and nothing's happening. Nothing's going to happen. So they have to speak towards that. So they did finally have to say, we're going to wait a year. Now, I think they've already known this for a while. I think that they were probably just trying to let that, just let everything sit. But they have come forward and said, we're going to wait a year. They've got their reasons, which aren't exactly obvious. I mean, Mazloum did sort of allude to sort of the sequence of events in terms of construction. There's a lot of moving parts out there, a lot of projects that are all happening at roughly the same time. And that makes a lot of sense. But I feel like there's room for some other possibilities.
Now, before we get into Dave's possibilities, and then, by the way, this is the first time that Conductor and I are watching this video in particular. So we're getting a raw reaction here. But before he continues, in my opinion, what I think is going on with this, the new Disneyland president, Thomas, I can never pronounce his last name, so I'll call him Thomas. He seems like a stickler for operational efficiency and what have you, right? I don't think, and this is my opinion, and Conductor, you might disagree with me, but I don't think this means anything. I don't think it points to Avatar being canceled, or even delayed. I mean, they even said, Disney even said outright, this is not going to delay the project. I think what's going on here with Monsters is Avatar sits like in the park and out of the park, right? So you have several acres or ish with the bus load unload area, and then you have in the park, which is the Monsters Inc. little courtyard and all that stuff, right? I think what the original plan was, because remember, they were never going to finish the Eastern Gateway before they started this. The Monsters Inc. was going to close early 2026, and the Gateway was never going to be open by then anyway. So they were always going to start this even without the Eastern Gateway, right? What I think is happening is instead of starting the project in the park, which was the original plan, they're starting out of the park. They're going to start digging into the bus load unload area. Now, a lot of people are going to ask me, but OG, how are you going to do that? Where are you going to put the buses? You have to have the Eastern Gateway to do the bus load area. Not necessarily. You can carve out a little section over there at the Simba lot and have the buses to load and unload over there. Conductor, you brought it up on my channel before, and I think on your channel as well, where you could use the downtown Disney parking, carve out a little part of that. There's options, but I think that's what's going on here. And I think the reason why they're doing it this way is because they want to have this ride open as long as possible for operational reasons. And they want to be able to have it as long as possible because really there is not a whole lot for kiddos to do in DCA. So they want to give it as much time as possible, enough runway as possible. I don't think it means Avatar is canceled. I don't think it means it's delayed. I just think they're switching what part they're working on first. That's my opinion. Conductor, what's your opinion? And then we'll continue with the video.
Absolutely. So I actually agree with you that they're going to probably start in the bus load and unload area. David, on his main channel, Fresh Baked, did a construction video. I think he showed it. I can't remember, or someone took a picture on social media. But if you walk in that area, they do have construction fences up in that bus load and unload area in a small portion, literally directly behind Monsters, behind the old soundstage building that used to be the Avengers Superstore. And then before that, it was that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire show. So they are starting on the outside. Do I think Avatar is delayed? I could see my opinion going both ways. No, it's not delayed, but yes, it is delayed because I kind of feel that the Monsters attraction is literally right in the middle of where they want to build Avatar. Sure. So the fact that they're not going to close Monsters, tells me that they want, or they want to keep it open, as long as you said, because of capacity reasons and efficiency. But in all regards, it is delaying it, even though they don't want to say it. It's kind of like the battle we're going with Disney right now, where they can't even say that Avatar is a land, and they keep insisting it's an experience or a destination. This is the same thing. They came out and said it's not delayed, but it's like, well, how can you say that when you have an attraction right in the middle of the land where you're going to build this avatar?
That's
So
fair. No, that's fair.
that's my concern with this. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. I really hope they ramp up construction. What I think is going to happen, to be honest with you, I think since they want to close Monsters now in 27 instead of early 2026, like we all heard that was supposed to happen, I think they're trying to keep Monsters open as long as they can, as close as they can to the two Avengers attractions. And then they're going to close it right before those Avengers attractions open. That way, there's only a small little gap of efficiency missing from DCA. Then you'll have two attractions open. And then at that point, they will close all of the Hollywood backlot and immediately start demo. That's why I think it's going to go down.
That's a great point. That's a great point about the Avengers stuff. 100%. Another element here too, which, you know, and again, you know, Dave might get into a lot of this as well, but like another element here too is that we just got word that Josh Giamaro told the Imagineers to go back to the drawing board with Villains Land, and that article that we covered about from the Wrap, the Hollywood Trade, they were saying that you know, Disney was initially going to use, you know, Universal's Dark Universe as inspiration for what they want to do with Villains Land, but that direction has changed, and now it's going to be more akin to like an Isle of Burke, right? So they're making these creative decisions, right? Like changes, right? Okay, so another possibility is that, you know what you're saying, yeah, it is delayed, Avatar, and maybe it's also because of a similar creative direction change. Well, I mean, you know, it's a lot of people think it's all or nothing, where it's either it's going to happen as is or get canceled, right? I think it's very possible too, where we still get it, but it's not the same thing that we were told initially. And that does kind of scare me a little bit, just because I don't really love the Villains Land stuff. I got to be honest with you. I don't like the fact that they're choosing a kind of this cult classic as one of the marquee rides. Emperor's New Groove, that was weird.
Yeah.
We have a whole library full of an amazing legendary villains, and that's the villain you pick for your big ride. You know, that's weird. The Ursula spinner is like laughable, honestly. But yeah, there's a lot of weird decisions made with that, right? I'm hoping that we don't get some weird stuff going on here with Avatar. I don't know, but we'll see. It's interesting.
Namely, first, well, obviously, maybe I've heard rumors that they were having issues with the city, or that they were having, you know, in terms of permits or planning, or what it is that Disney was proposing to build. The concept art suggests something. Well, obviously, it's a water ride. This is going to be, you know, way of water based, I guess. The ride that the concept art looks very much like it's going to be, you know, like a boat ride, something along the scale of Pirates, perhaps at Shanghai. But that's the only thing we've seen. But it's almost all water. You're just seeing a big mountain, giant pool of water, and, you know, it's all the landscaping, etc. And I'm wondering if maybe there's an issue with, you know, how they propose to create that environment, and is it at odds with what is available to the park in that part of the park? I have also heard other rumors that it's difficult to get water into that location, into that specific area of the Disneyland Resort. Possibly also issues with power, although we know that the city's already
I have to respectfully disagree. Now, again, look, I mean, I'm not a construction expert by any means. By any means, I'm not. But years ago, there was a fountain in this area. It was a Mickey Mouse. It was a Sorcerer Mickey fountain, I believe. So they did have water right there in the middle. I don't know the reason, though. To be fair to Dave, I don't know the reason why they got rid of that fountain. And maybe they got rid of the fountain because of what he's saying. The waterways in this area are not good. I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert with construction, but but they did have a water feature back in the day. So I don't know if getting water here is a problem or not. Based on the fact that they did have a fountain a while ago.
Accommodating Disney on the power issue, all that work that's happening out there on Harbor Boulevard, where they're closing the intersection and all the road work that's been going on, that's in order to beef up.
Now, I will also say too, though, to be fair, a fountain is kind of a different animal compared to like how much water they want to have in this land. So it's also, it could be something like that where like a fountain could be, they could maneuver that, but maybe a huge body of water and waterfalls and crazy stuff like that. Maybe it's a little too much to that area can't facilitate that. That's also a possibility, which is actually probably what Dave meant, honestly.
The amount of power that can be supplied to the Disneyland Resort from the stations down the way. So I kind of dismissed that's the least plausible reason for this delay. The second one is born out of the idea that Josh D'Amaro recently was revealed to have told Imagineering, think bigger. I want to go bigger. I want to go stronger. I want to go harder. Now, this, by the way, isn't a result of him taking over as chief executive. Matter of fact, that hasn't even happened yet. He was already running parks. D'Amaro was already boss of parks, so he could have been giving that direction a year ago, right? In specific, it was being made in reference specifically to Villains Land, where he was telling Imagineers that he wants them to think bigger and try harder and be more, epic, which is a word that he likes to throw around from time to time. But this is not a result of him. It's not a new thing. It's not a new initiative. It's something that I think that he probably did, according to some other reports I'm hearing, maybe a year ago or so. Okay. In any case, there is the idea that perhaps he was saying something similar to the design, the Imagineers working on Avatar. Are they not impressed enough with, well, first of all, it's just the one attraction. Just that's all we know so far. There could be another one, but the only thing that they're revealing, that they have revealed, is the one boat ride attraction. Now, personally...
Now this worries me a little bit. This worries me a little bit now in light of this Villains Land news that we got, because he's right, and you made this argument as well. We are only getting one ride. I do feel D'Amaro does want these lands to have as many rides as possible.
Yes.
We saw the Kuka Arm edition, with the Vendors Campus, which I think is a very cheap sort of
substitute.
A cheap sort of addition to the area. I really personally don't think it's a great thing that they're putting in there with that, but I'll reserve judgment till it opens. But we got the Kuka Arm thing, which seems like a very like a tagged on sort of addition just to bolster the ride count. But we're seeing kind of a similar thing over there in Villains Land, where it's like originally we're only going to get 2 rides, but then they're going to throw in this Ursula spinner, like to bolster that ride count again. That worries me for Avatar, though. Are we going to get like a Na'vi spinner ride or some cheap little side ride so Josh can get out there and say, hey, we have more rides now? You know what I'm saying? I hope that's not the case. I would rather them only open with the one ride and maybe have an area set aside, maybe like where the Hyperion sits or something like that, where they can build a proper secondary attraction down the road even. Yes. But what do you say about that, Conductor? What are your thoughts on that, brother?
So I love that analogy, because when you look at it, if not to go off the rails, but if you look at Villains Land for an example, because that's just the hot topic of the theme park news right now for Disney. If you look at that, and then you look at the original concept for Villains, if we kept the 2 major e-ticket attractions exactly how they're supposed to be, and if Josh and the team want to add a 3rd attraction and it just happens to be a spinner ride, I'm okay with that, as long as the mass majority of the budget went into those 2 e-ticket attractions and there was no cheapening out.
Right.
I'm fine with that. Same thing with Avatar. If they want to open the and I'm going to call it a land, I know Disney doesn't want to, but I'm going to do it. If they want to open Avatar Land with 1 attraction, but when they open the land, they have a section walled off with construction walls, which I'm fine with, but
Right.
they're heavily themed construction walls, and it says second attraction coming in the future, and it's either in front of the Hyperion building or it's in front of Philhar Magic. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
don't give us the e-ticket attraction in Avatar and then add a spinner and
No.
then still have the construction walls either at the Hyperion or Philhar Magic, and then years down the road they decide, you know what, but budget's just not where it's at, and then one day we go visit that area and the walls are gone.
Yes. And here's the other thing too. Great point, Conductor. Great points all around. Here's the other thing too that really concerns me. I know you mentioned this with Hollow Gelato and about the Zootopia replacement, right? And I don't disagree with you guys, like honestly. And I was even asked this on Twitter kind of recently, like, well, what do you think about Zootopia replacing Avatar? I would support that 1,000%. Like, I think Zootopia is a great franchise. I think you could definitely put that in there, and it would really tie in beautifully with the main Hollywood street, right? It would be a better transition for sure. And it's proven to be a box office monstrosity. I mean, this thing is killing it overseas, and it's doing really massive numbers. I support Zootopia in that spot. My issue, though, with that idea of canceling Avatar and putting Zootopia in there is I feel like that decision should have been made 5 years ago. And I feel like if they were to alter course now, change Avatar, make it Zootopia, we're looking at, I mean, right now, Avatar is probably not going to open until 2030, 2031.
Yeah.
If they have to go back to the drawing board with a completely new concept, I mean, Zootopia won't be open till like 2035. I mean, I'm telling you that right now. And what worries me about that is because a lot of times when these things get into like creative limbo, Disney sort of puts things on ice. We've seen it with Tomorrowland happen a bajillion times now, where they can't figure out creatively what to do, so they don't deal with it at all at the moment, and the projects get kicked down the road. That worries me a little bit. If they're really actively considering swapping this out with another franchise and all that stuff, and there's all this creative sort of turmoil and that limbo, it worries me that Disney will be like, you know what, this isn't really worth it at the moment. We'll put it on hold indefinitely. That scares me. That's why I'm kind of like, okay, hopefully we can just do what we were originally going to do, But in a perfect world, let's just say Zootopia could be in that same spot, but it opens in the same year that Avatar would open. Oh, dude, that's fine. I would 1,000% support that. I just worry about changing course midstream like this and what that means for this area and all the stuff that surrounds that whole decision-making process.
That just seems a little bit, that begs for more, does it not? It begs for more. It's the exact kind of situation where, like, are we thinking big enough? Avatar is a huge IP. It's a huge IP. And people would say nobody goes to see the movies, but I beg to differ. And they also say that it's not doing very well at Animal Kingdom. I beg to differ again. Two of the most popular attractions in the whole park. It's constantly busy down there. They sell a bunch of merchandise. They sell a bunch of food. They sell a bunch of treats, and the rides are always full. Pandora is a legit hit at Animal Kingdom, and it would be as well here at DCA at the Disneyland Resort. But is it enough? Is it epic enough, especially considering the comparisons that people are making to the new things that Universal are doing, in Hollywood? Universal Hollywood is about to blow up. Stay tuned. We haven't talked about that because we don't talk about Universal very much, but I mean, not just Fast and Furious. Things are going to be happening at Universal that are just going to blow your mind. At least that's what I've been told. But I digress. It could be that they're not happy with the scale of what's going on at the Avatar experience. They're going short of calling it a land, which is, again, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't promise us, something that suggests that it will be a huge thing and then not give us a huge thing, which is why I didn't like it at the Hollywood backlot to begin with. There's just not enough room to go big. There's enough room to build a kind of a land and an Avatar experience. There's enough room at the Hollywood backlot for that, but you can't really go big there. There's just too many constraints. We talked about that in our State of DCA video. There's too many limitations in terms of how you actually drop Pandora in the middle of Hollywood. And it's like trying to put a Pandora-sized square peg into the round hole of the Hollywood backlot. They simply do not go together.
No, and we've talked about this, and he's not wrong, and we've talked about it does present a very interesting challenge for Disney. How do you put this here? Now, what I think they're going to do, and I've talked about it in other videos with you and stuff, I think they're going to do the Hollywood Studios thing. I think what you see when you enter through, when you go to Galaxy's Edge in Florida, and you'll see it when you go down there, conductor. Text me after you go, because I'm very curious your thoughts about it. But you basically go under like a freeway overpass or like a bridge, like it's a very urban looking kind of like city tunnel or something like that. And you come out the other end and you're in Galaxy's Edge. I think that is pretty close to what we're going to get here with Avatar. Yes. There will be some sort of like LA Hollywood tunnel, and it'll look like a city thing from the Hollywood side. You walk under it and you come out the other end, you're in Pandora. They've literally done this before with Galaxy's Edge, Batu in Florida. I think it's going to be the exact same business model, or not business model, same exact creative approach. So now, to Dave's point, is that ideal? No, it's not ideal. It's not ideal at all. But for whatever reason, and I don't know the logistics behind this, I don't know the creative reasons behind it, for whatever reason, they really want it here. And it's interesting because this Monsters, Inc. delay, you know, people were pointing out, well, maybe they're thinking about changing the location of where they're putting Avatar. See, I don't think that's the case, because I feel like if they were going to change the location, this wouldn't be closing at all. So it's still going here, but I don't know. It's weird. And here's the other thing too. I'm kind of like playing devil's advocate. I do want to say this area though is a lot bigger than it seems. I think it's hard to wrap our brains around it because there are so much crap in there with the sound stages and all that. Believe me, when they bulldoze those sound stages and they bulldoze the Monsters, Inc. ride and all this stuff goes away, those sound stages take up huge amounts of land. This is going to seem a lot bigger than people think it is. I mean, even when they bulldozed the La Brea Bakery or Earl's Sandwich recently at Downtown Disney, you saw how big that area looks now. It's crazy. Yeah, it's massive. So this is bigger than people think. But at the same time, it is also very boxed in. So, you know.
Well, so to add on to this, OG, there is a video. I don't know where it is on YouTube. If I find it, I will send you the link and we can go back to this. But there is a video somewhere in the international countries. There's an experience that's called the Avatar experience, and it's literally a walkthrough attraction. You walk in and it's like a big like dome. Okay, you walk in there and you basically feel like you're in the world of Avatar. You have Banshee animatronics, you have the waterfalls, the forest, you have the creatures walking around, you have the Avatar people walking around, and people see that and they're like, is this what we're getting for the Hollywood backlot? And that's what scares people. So I think for Disney to be proactive here, they need to give us more detail on Avatar, and they need to stop being scared or whatever their excuse is. And I love Dave. That's why you saw me do this, because he even said, enough with the games. Call it a land. Move on. Stop beating around the bush.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, conductor. And so is Dave. And we talked about this in a video recently, you and I, where it's like, it's a land. It's obviously a land, right? I mean, it's going to be probably 8 or 9 acres ish, right? Massive e-ticket. That's a land. Disney, just call it a land. You know, now to be fair, I do know Bob Iger called it a land at one of these like financial conferences or whatever. That was it though. Yeah, and that was the one time he did. one time. That was it. We never heard that again. But the PR around this project has been pretty bad. When you and this is the thing, and Dave mentioned it in this video, the fans are laser focused on this stuff with social media. When you start to get fancy with the semantics and the word games, fans will read into that. So you have to be careful when you do that. I do believe they're using the word experience to make it seem fancier, to make it seem grander and more epic. I don't believe that they're trying to get away from it being a land, because it's obviously going to be a land, but you can't play the word games because the fans are looking at that and they're starting to think like, well, why are they not calling it a land though? Then there's a little bit of that question mark, it's kind of sus. What's going on here? And that's the problem. That it's this, you present a whole lot of fan distrust when you start to introduce these weird kind of words for something that is just, you know what I'm saying?
Well, before you play the video some more, one thing I would love Disney to do, if they're not ready to reveal more plans for Avatar, at least come out and settle the word game scramble, as I call it. Say, hey, instead of us using old terminology and saying land, when we call it, let's say, a destination, that's the newest term or phrase they love using for this. When we call it a destination, or we call something that's tied to an IP a destination, we actually mean land. But we want to use the word destination because it gives a broader focus on what we're bringing to the park. If they came out and said something like that, I would say, okay,
cool,
perfect. I'm glad you did that. I'm glad it's classified. So that way we're not all kind of scratching our head.
Right.
Well, what the hell is this thing?
No, you're right, conductor. Just come out and explain. Look, this is gonna be a land, but we feel the word experience fits what this is gonna be better, because it's more than just a land, or however they want to package that. But explain, why are you calling it an experience? You know what I'm saying? I think Disney, and I know it sounds like we're being like, oh, super picky, and like, Disney has to explain everything. Well, they kind of do have to explain everything, because a lot of this stuff, the fans are watching, and these narratives get spread through social media and what have you. And it hurts this stuff. Disney needs to get on top of that and really be more proactive with this. I do believe, though, Josh D'Amaro is better at PR. So I do believe when he takes over officially next month, we're going to see the PR improve. But as of right now, it's been terrible, especially with this project.
Thematically and size-wise. Meanwhile, I had always maintained, put that sucker at Disneyland Forward in the Simba lot, where you got all kinds of space. You got plenty of size. You got plenty of room. And you could build it from the ground up. You could build it exactly to suit however you want it. It's easier to get water back there, from my understanding. So everything works as in your favor. You don't have to reskin anything. Meanwhile, you could. I was told a while back that Disneyland Forward, the Simba lot, was going to be Frozen and Zootopia. And Zootopia is a huge hit. They're crushing it with the film. Zootopia and the new land that they built in, I can't remember which park it is, but everybody loves that new land. It's great. The ride's fun, etc. Zootopia would fit just fine in the back lot. It would look great. You may redo the facades a little bit, but I wouldn't have any trouble going down Hollywood Boulevard and seeing buildings that look like Hollywood buildings, but are actually Zootopia buildings. Easy. Infinitely more sense to do that than it is to try to squeeze Avatar in there. So maybe they're having second thoughts in that regard. That makes a lot of sense. I really like that idea. I don't know if that's...
No, and I do too. And I said this before. I mean, I do like that idea. I think as a fandom, we have to kind of come to the... each of us has, it's kind of where we all stand on that personally, because let's just say, for example, it becomes Zootopia. They cancel Avatar and they put Zootopia there, and it's for sure it's coming as Zootopia. They're gonna break ground on this thing. It's gonna be Zootopia. As a fan, are we okay with that being delayed? Because that will be a delay. There's no doubt about it. If they have to start from the get-go again on a whole new concept, that will take longer than Avatar for sure, because you're starting over. As fans, are we okay with that? If it means getting maybe a better thing like a Zootopia, are you okay with that, conductor? Like, would you, in your opinion, would you be okay with Zootopia if it meant waiting an extra maybe 2 years on that project?
And waiting an extra 2 years for Zootopia or for Avatar or for both?
If they canceled Avatar and replaced it with Zootopia,
But
would
they
you be
were
okay?
but they were still gonna bring Avatar to the Simba lot, just
Yeah,
not
yeah, just not right here. Like, would you be okay if like if Zootopia came first, but because they have to start over though, because we have to draw the plans up for this area now as Zootopia. Would you be okay with that happening? But it might take an extra couple years to do that now because you're starting from scratch. But you could potentially get a better transition, a better product at the end of the day. Would you be okay with that?
So I'm gonna actually split hairs on that question because yes, I would like to see that, but in all regards, if they delayed Zootopia by 2 years, but we got a better quality land out of it, and we possibly have a second attraction, which the Shanghai version, the only version at this time, only has one attraction, and we had two, I'd be okay with that. Here's the thing though. If Avatar wasn't going in that area, and like David said, according to his sources, and again, I'm not a construction guy either, if there's easy access to water in the Simba parking lot, then I would say for Disney, do this. You could delay Zootopia by 2 years. You can keep Monsters open if you want a little bit longer. That's fine. But I want to see groundbreaking in the next couple months for Avatar in the Simba parking lot because you don't have to tear down buildings. You don't have to do any of that. All you have to do, rip up asphalt, dig trenches for conduit,
And you're good.
and then you could start going vertical. You don't
Yeah.
have to worry about tearing down old soundstage buildings or worrying about guest flow in those areas because you have buildings getting ripped apart by excavator. You don't have that problem. So that would be my trade-off if
Okay.
that's what they want to do.
Okay. Fair.
That's what's happening. But just on a personal level, on my own blue sky level, I would be so much more on board for that type of thinking. I would even be on board for Monstropolis. Just give me Monstropolis back there. And it's funny because one of the reasons we're wondering, why are they closing Monsters Inc. so early? That's what I got that question a lot. It seems really early to be closing Monsters Inc. And that takes us to the third question. Are they
Okay, before he gets on to the third question, and I know they're building a Monsters Inc. roller coaster in Florida.
They are.
I just don't know. We talk about franchise viability, right?
Yeah.
People talk about Avatar, but the fact of the matter is Avatar does a lot of business in the box office. I mean, these movies are, the first two made $2 billion a piece. This third one is like, I think 1.6 or something like that, or 1.7 billion. I mean, even less than 2 billion, but it's still very good. I don't know if Monsters as a franchise right now is the hot thing it was in 2001 or 2005 even. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's a franchise that's still crushing it. Now, I don't know. I mean, it's possible that maybe the internal data from Disney is Monsters Inc. like merchandise and stuff like that does really well. I mean, it might be. I don't know. But I just don't know if it's really held its cultural relevance. Like, I mean, I know the prequel didn't do like super. I mean, it wasn't like a gangbuster thing either. I don't know. I mean, do you feel Monsters is a big enough thing right now to justify that, or does it not matter?
Well, I think where Monsters is currently going in Hollywood studios, I think it's a perfect location. The reason why is from what I've heard, Hollywood studios is a struggling park in a way for entertainment. Well, not much entertainment because I heard entertainment is awesome over there, but for attraction wise, it's kind of hurting a little bit. So Monstropolis going into the Hollywood studios, perfect idea. For it to come here at DCA or Disneyland Forward, no, I don't want to see it here. I rather, like David was saying, I rather have Zootopia. I rather have the World of Arendelle. I rather have any other IP that's not something that is going to be a carbon copy of, Orlando. And that's the biggest problem me and you and others always pivot to. We
Right.
do not want to see a Galaxy's Edge clone situation. It's not feasible. It's basically telling fans, hey, we're saving money by, manufacturing the same attractions, the same ride vehicles, the same layout, the same facades in batches. That way we can save money in the long run. That's not what this is. Now, if you want to clone something from the international parks, or at least take inspiration from the international parks, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Don't clone stuff.
yeah, I agree with you on that. I would agree with you. I wouldn't want the door coaster here. I don't know. I
No.
don't think, but I think each park has different needs. And number
Yes.
one, I don't think DCA needs more thrilling stuff. It needs more everybody rides. The reason why
No.
Disneyland is so big and so popular is because you literally have attractions for your 8-year-old and your 88-year-old grandmother,
Yes.
DCA doesn't have that dynamic. It already has a lot of thrilling stuff. It needs a ride that people can just get on a vehicle and everyone can do it. That's why the Pandora thing is pretty important, because that's what they're giving us basically.
Sure.
Another issue that I have with Monsters, even if it's not the door coaster, even if it's some totally different concept, I still wouldn't really want Monsters in there. And because I feel DCA already has too much Pixar.
It does. They have a whole pier dedicated to it.
Well, yeah, they got the whole pier. Then they got a whole land next to that based on another Pixar thing, Cars. I just don't want another Pixar land. I don't want it to become Pixar. I don't want the whole park to be Pixar.
Well, okay. So to your point, I personally want to see it this way. I want to keep that kind of adult culture they have at DCA, but in all reality, if they want to keep building thrilling attractions, this is how you do it. You build thrilling attractions, fine, but you also build family friendly excitement attractions where that 8-year-old kid or that 88-year-old grandparent can ride it, but it gives enough storytelling and excitement where it's not boring. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, yep. Well said. Well said.
Waiting for something else to happen. In his announcement about the delay in closing Monsters Inc., Disneyland president Thomas Meslim said, "This isn't going to change our Avatar plans at all." Now, he did go ahead and say that. He didn't say we're changing our mind or anything. He said this is not going to change our Avatar plans at all. Not only did he say it's not going to change the Avatar plans, he said it's not going to change the timeline for when they're going to finish Avatar, which that kind of blows my mind, because you're telling me that you're going to delay the demo. You can't build Avatar until you're done demoing all that stuff back there. You can't. You tell me you're going to put that off for a year, but it's not going to change?
Well, here's the thing, though, and I talked about it earlier on in the video.
You did.
But here's the thing. There is that bus load unload area, which they could start digging into that now. Because I mean, they could technically feasibly move the bus load stuff somewhere else, right?
Yes.
But even aside from that, Monsters Inc. is staying open. But that doesn't mean the soundstage next to it's not going to get started. They could start demoing that tomorrow. There's nothing really in there.
No,
they can demo the Hollywood and Dine building too. They can demo a lot in the area and the busload area. That's why it's maybe not necessary to close Monsters. That's probably why Thomas Maslam is saying there's no delay, because they're probably going to do stuff in and around it.
Yes. And to be fair to you and David from Fresh Baked, Disney never really even gave us a timeline when they plan on opening the Avatar destination, as they call it. So
That's a good point.
there really is no way you could tell if it's delayed or not, because we haven't even heard, oh yeah, it's going to open by 2031. We never even heard that date, or any date for that matter.
Yeah.
So they could sit there and claim until the cows come home, hey, it's not delayed. But we can't call them on it because we never heard a opening date to begin with.
That's fair. That's fair. Most people are assuming 2030 because Josh said it was weird. At D23, Josh said something to the effect of all these projects announced today will start work within the next 5 years or something like that. Now, initially, I thought that meant all these projects are going to open in the next 5 years.
That's what I thought.
That's what I thought. When I walked away from D23, that's what I was thinking. When I went back on the video, because a lot of people that watch the channel were commenting on my video saying, no, he didn't say that these were all going to open in the next 5 years. He said they're all going to start work in the next 5 years. That's different, you know? So yeah, you're right. We don't have an opening date for Avatar. Now, assuming this is correct and assuming they start it even in 2027, it's probably looking like a 2031 opening, I would guess. These things usually take 3 or 4 years. But again, that's all speculation. We don't even know.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, and I love your opinion. I really honestly do. If they start demoing, the old Hollywood and Dine building, the old Avengers Superstore building, if they start doing work around Monsters,
Right.
and they keep Monsters open until 2027, I'm okay with that. The reason why I say that, it might look ugly for a while, but the reason why I say that is when they're ready to literally wall off the Hollywood backlot where nobody can go in that area, they only have to worry about very minimal deconstruction between the attraction and then maybe stuff they couldn't deconstruct because of guests being in that area. But if you get rid of, like I said, the Hollywood and Dine building, like actually what you said, and get rid of the Superstore Avengers old building, if you get rid of those two massive buildings, then you're already way ahead of schedule. I like that. And then we kind of have seen, pictures off and on in the Toy Story parking lot, which is also rumored to be a third gate eventually. And I know OG's cringing over there because he wants Westcott, but they can use that parking lot, a section of it, for staging, for construction materials.
Absolutely.
So that's what I mean.
No, absolutely.
What you said, they could do that.
No, yeah, exactly. I think that there are ways around this. There are ways around this. That, he didn't say that construction was delayed. Thomas Maslow didn't say construction was delayed. He said Monsters Inc. closing was delayed. So they can, in theory, start work all around that area. And, so very interesting stuff.
The timeline for the completion, that's, I call BS on that. But it does make sense if you give room for the idea that the date was so far into the future as to, it's just infinite, like 2040, right? Not just 2028 or 29 or 2030. We're talking 10 years from now, right? So if that was the case, then you probably aren't going to. The reason why there's no change in the timeline is because there wasn't one. Because there was no timeline. They were still working on it. I'm not even sure if they know what they're going to build. Which takes us back to question 2. Maybe they haven't. Maybe they can't even decide what they're going to build. It sounds a lot like Tomorrowland 3.0 or whatever, right? Another conversation. That's another thing that didn't happen. So if they were truly getting ready to build Avatar, and that process starts with the demo of Monsters Inc., then this is bad, right? Then there's a problem. There's some kind of problem with Avatar. Having said that, consider Disney's recent history of announcing things way, way too early. They have mostly be like with just the recent stuff happening here at DCA or Disneyland, the Portos situation, Tortilla Joe's. They announced Portos 3 or 4 years ago. They announced Avatar. 3 years ago. They announced Disneyland Forward 4 or 5 years ago. How long have we been waiting? We don't even have concept art. There is the stuff that they gave, when they first.
And Dave brings up a great point here. I love that he brought this up. Disney does do this. Disney does announce things way too early. I completely agree with him on that. And this is why our good friend Bricky says we examine Disney's past to predict its future, right? If we look at all the stuff that we've seen, except for like a Tomorrowland, but if you look at, like, for example, you know, the Avengers e-ticket, which was announced way early, and there were all these rumors around the Avengers e-ticket. It was canceled. It was canceled. It was canceled, and it's getting built. It's happening, right? If you look at this stuff, even like the Portos, I mean, there was all kinds of rumors. Oh, that's getting canceled. Oh, they haven't done anything yet. It's taking them forever. It must be canceled. Most of the time, and I'm putting an asterisk on that because I'm not going to say every time. Most of the time, these projects end up happening. It's just Disney takes freaking forever to do it, you know? So that's why I'm pretty confident we are going to get Avatar. But there could be some delays, some significant delays, you know? And I don't think, I think there really isn't an issue necessarily with what they want to do with the land. I think the issue is coming more into logistics. I think you hit the nail on the head, Conductor, when you said earlier on, they're probably waiting for the Avengers rides to open or close to it to so that operational stress isn't there. You know, that's likely the issue.
No, 100%. And I think they're going to do that. But I also love your idea as well. If you're not utilizing the other two buildings, get rid of those. Be a step ahead of the schedule. Because like David said, Avatar was announced 3 years ago. Now, if you're proactive, you get rid of the building surrounding monsters. So you're ahead of a schedule.
Right.
Same thing with you know, any other project. And it's kind of concerning now that it kind of is fresh in my mind. 3 years ago, Avatar was announced. 3 years ago, Portos was announced. 4 years ago, Disneyland Forward was announced. Have they started in the cast member parking lot yet? No. The only
7 years ago, Avengers was announced.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's like, wait a second. What have you guys been doing for all these years? And I agree with not only just you, but also David. That's just another weakness that Disney has.
Yeah. No, they do. They announced it.
They announced it way too early, and they love bragging on how much money they spend. If they got rid of those two bad habits, it would be so much more better.
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah, the PR around these projects, that's one thing I really hope Josh Giamara, when he becomes CEO, he really tackles that. I think we need more transparency with these projects. And I think we need more regular updates to the fans, right? Within reason, obviously. I mean, you have to save some stuff for like D23, but like more regular updates and just get away from the semantics word games. Experience, this, that, and the other. Just call it what it really is. Because the fans are watching Disney. They are watching, they are analyzing. And when you play those word games, you create narratives online and problems for yourself.
Announced it, but that wasn't concept art. That was brush strokes with a paintbrush. There was nothing definite in that art. They announced Disneyland Forward like 5 years ago. And we're still nowhere near. We're nowhere on that. This is completely within their normal. I think that is the most plausible scenario is for the delay is that they didn't have a date to begin with. And that they want to wait. And there's a really good reason for that. There's a really good reason for that, because if you close Monsters Inc. now, DCA is a park that's already too short on attractions.
Yes.
Like 15, 16, 17 attractions. Off the top of my head, I can't think. Way too few kids attractions. The park is already short. Now, we are going to be building one ride at Avatar, at least 2 rides at Avengers, and another in the Coco. We're getting 4 new rides at DCA, which is great, but none of those are anywhere near done. So if you close, not only are you taking a park that's already light on attractions, you're going to take one down for at least a year. It would be at least a year, probably more, before you can, turn that around with the opening of the 2 Avengers campus rides. So by delaying it, you take the ride count down, or you change the ride count from a net -1, losing Monsters Inc., to a net +1, adding the 2 Avengers Campus rides, and then taking down Monsters Inc. So in that sense, it makes a lot of sense for them to wait, especially if they don't have a date anyway. If there's no completion date, then it doesn't really matter how long you close Monsters Inc. It could even be more than a year. It could be 2 years. It could be however long it takes to finish Avengers Infinity Defense and Tony Stark Flight Lab. And that right there is the reason, I believe. I think the real reason.
I agree with Dave. I think it's something like that. It's an operational issue more than anything. And this also could be why, to his point, we're seeing them move really fast with Avengers. They're moving on that thing. So maybe that is the reason, because they're like, we got to get this thing up because we can't start this thing over here yet until this thing is up. So
reason is that they're not anywhere near finishing. We need that time to get those attractions up and running. And that's the sort of chain of events. It's all symbiotic. You can't start demoing Monsters Inc. and the Transportation Hub until Avengers Campus is done. You also can't do that until the Eastern Gateway is at least close to done. Now, this is the part that blows my mind. This is the part that I cannot reconcile. I cannot wrap my head. How, in order to build the Eastern Gateway, well, actually, I take that back. You can build the Eastern Gateway. You could build the new parking structure on the other side of Harbor Boulevard without having any impact on the park. But how do you get the guests over there, right? That's the bridge. That's the part. The concept art suggests a whole nother thing, a whole different experience that's going to happen in that transportation hub. Monsters Inc., the backside of Monsters Inc. is the front, is where the transportation hub is, right? They share, more or less, they share a fence. Right? The fence is the back of Monsters Inc. Monsters Inc. Transportation hub. How do you build that transportation hub while not destroying? I take that back. How do you build a bridge? How do you get guests from the Eastern Gateway over Harbor Boulevard and into that transportation hub without destroying the transportation hub? And if you have to wait, where do you put all those guests? Where do you put all those buses that are coming into that transportation hub? Where do they go if if there's no hub and they haven't built the new Eastern Gateway? Where does all that traffic go? So there's definitely an order of operations that are happening here that is very precise, and certain dominoes have to fall before they can even start. The transportation, the Eastern Gateway, that project's not supposed to begin until October. Right? That's what, 8 months from now?
That's crazy.
Right. So and it's going to take about 2 years to build that. It took a year and a half. It took a year and a half to build the Pixar Palace parking structure. I was there from day one. I watched them build that from day one, from tearing out the blacktop to building the whole thing, and my first day parking that structure. That took a year and a half. This parking structure is supposed to be bigger than that one. So we're going to call that 2 years. Plus they have to build the bridge. They have to build a whole lot more. They have to build a whole transportation hub and everything. They have to build, I think, are they putting bag check on that side? We don't know that for sure yet. They have to build Uber pickup and drop off and all that stuff too. So I'm figuring 2 years. If that starts in October, now you're looking at 2028 before they can start taking away that stuff that exists today outside of Monsters Inc. and the transportation hub. Now the good news is that by doing that does give them more time. That gives them more cover to finish doing Avengers Campus, Avengers Infinity Defense. That thing is not going to be done in a year. I can still see inside that building. So no, they're not going to be done in a year. We're probably closer to 2 years. I know people want they want it to be coinciding with Doomsday or with the Olympics or whatever, but I don't really think that that's on Disney's radar. I don't think either of those things are a requirement. They got a ways to go to finish that. So delaying Monsters Inc., all what they're doing is just like, but it kind of begs the question, why did they even bother trying to close it when they did? What were they thinking? It made no sense. When you think about the big picture and the timeline that was being, envisioned for the transportation hub and Avengers Campus, knowing that they don't want to have multiple projects going on at the same time. not the least of which for, man hours and all that stuff, and how much things cost and everything, but also just the effect that it's going to have on the guest experience. And that's something that I'll give them credit. I'll give Disney credit for this, because they've been talking about the guest experience in a more positive way than I've heard them talk about it in quite some time. Masloum specifically, the current Disneyland president, who, by the way, is probably not going to be long for that job, because he's probably going to follow Tomorrow's footsteps. Tomorrow was president at Disneyland for a short time, and then was quickly promoted when Iger quit. Chapek moved up. Iger stepped into that role. Tomorrow stepped into the parks president role after having only been at Disneyland for a year, maybe two years. I expect, and it's been a little over a year now for Masloum. I hope I'm saying his name right. So I do expect that.
Yeah, that's why I call him Thomas. And no disrespect. I mean, but yeah, his name is tough, so I just call him Disneyland President Thomas.
But so far I have, the moves that they were making or have made up to date have not been great, but the moves that I'm hearing them talk about doing, we just did a video about the park hopping requirements, the way I'm hearing him talk about the guest experience and ride maintenance, and trying to make it more pleasurable, more, giving guests a better experience. I got to give him credit for that. So hopefully that's what's going on here. The bottom line, either way, is that we're a long way. We are such a long way. God, and that does. We're probably 2 years away from Avengers. We're 2.5 years away from the new parking structure, and then we can start on Avatar, or whatever it is that they put in that space, which I do still think it's going to be Avatar. I feel like I said, it's the timing thing that's probably the most logical answer. Although I agree.
Great video again, by the way. Shout out to Dave. We love Dave. He's a friend of the channel, and make sure everybody. I want to remind everybody, this is his secondary channel. So if you think you're subscribed to Fresh Baked, you probably are. But are you subscribed to his secondary channel? So I'll be linking it down below. Make sure you subscribe. But yeah, I agree with Dave on that front. I do believe it will eventually be Avatar. I just think it's going to be a long time coming. Before we move on to his next video, what say you, sir?
So I'm going to pick apart kind of what he was saying, because I 100% believe that what he was stating. The one thing I would say is you can close the transportation hub. You could close it tomorrow if you wanted to. The reason I say that, and this is just my speculation on it, is you have the Lilo and Stitch parking lot, which is basically downtown Disney. Okay. Think about this for a second. And OG, I've said this on previous videos with you.
Right.
They can move the transportation hub to that parking lot, move the buses and all that over there as a temporary solution until the Eastern Gateway is built. Okay. And then you can have security there, everyone walking through downtown Disney, or using the trams from Mickey and Friends parking structure in Pixar Pal. You can have those two areas coming and going towards the Esplanade. And we all know that Disney loves nothing more for people to maybe stop in and get, a snack or some merchandise on their way in. So think about this. In all reality, if I'm thinking as a business standpoint and a business person, why would I not do that? Where you probably have hundreds, if not thousands of people walking past all these stores in downtown Disney,
right?
Possibly generating revenue for not only those third-party vendors or Disney themselves, and then walking into the Esplanade. That way they can literally wall off the entire, and I mean the entire bus load and unload area. And again, between those two buildings that you stated earlier, and now the entire bus load and unload area behind construction walls, they can really get a lot done for 2027. So when Monsters does close, they're so far ahead of schedule, that nothing will be delayed.
Yes.
And we won't have, nightmares at night saying, what is Disney talking about? It is delayed. Why won't they just say it? We won't have those questions anymore if they do that. So
Right.
that's the way I see. If I was someone high enough in the company like Josh or the Disneyland president Thomas, that's how I would do it.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. Now we're gonna pivot. This is another video from Fresh Baked Presents. It says here, will the new park hopping rule end the reservation system? Let's dive right in. Here we go.
Key park hopping rule. Now, it's a small rule, but it's one that could have major implications to a bigger rule that just about every Disneyland guest wants to see end. Could this be the beginning of the end of the reservation system? Now, the answer could lie in answering these two questions. One, why did that rule exist in the first place? And two, what can we learn from what's already happened, what we've seen happen at Walt Disney World? Let's get to work. And we'll start with the basics. This park hopping time frame existed when the reservation system became a thing. When they created the reservation system, so too did they have to make a time frame. When could you park hop? And when it first came around, it was 1 o'clock, and it was very annoying. A 1 p.m. park hopping limit was very annoying. And then after a couple of years, they said, okay, now we're going to make that 11 a.m., which was an improvement. And for most, it's probably enough. It's satisfactory enough that the park hopping rule is kind of a non-factor in terms of, you visiting your day, you're planning your Disneyland day.
Well, I think he's right. 11 a.m. is probably a non-factor, I think, for most locals, especially. A lot of locals don't ever even get to the park until later on in the afternoon. Let's say they go, a lot of times they'll go after work and what have you. So they're arriving in the evening, well after that 11 a.m. Time slot. So I think for the locals market that we have, the 11 a.m. thing is sort of a non-issue because it's early enough where people are probably missing it by the time they even get to the park anyway, right? Now, I'm a morning person. I am a morning person. I'm up at like 6:30 every single day. So for me, 11, when I go to the park, I'm there way before 11, right? But I think for a lot of key holders, a lot of locals, that's really not the case. I think the majority of people end up going later on in the day, to be honest.
But it exists nonetheless, and it is something that you have to consider if you're trying to park hop. Now, why that rule exists is a major part of this conversation. Why they had to do that to begin with is a huge contributing factor to determining what the value is of doing that. What does it mean to the reservation system in general? From the very beginning, people had asked, why is that necessary? Why does this park hopping rule even exist? Why can't they just get rid of it? Well, I had said from day one that if you're going to have a reservation system, you have to have a park hopping time limit. There has to be a point at which you can't just not have one, because otherwise, what's the point of a reservation system to begin with? Everybody would just book Disneyland, right? Who's going to book DCA? Given the choice, let's be honest, right? Everybody would just book Disneyland, or at least there would be a vast preponderance.
See, here's the thing, though, and this is, and Dave holds an opinion that is, again, I think true for the vast majority of fans. I really like DCA, and there are a good amount of times I go to Disneyland Resort and don't even go to Disneyland. I go just to DCA. It's a different vibe there. You can just walk up, you can just get a beer pretty much anywhere. I like this park a lot. I really, really do. Look, Disneyland is great. Disneyland is beautiful. It's one of the best, if not the best, theme park on the planet. But man, I feel like I can't sell our boy DCA short though. Like DCA has a lot of great stuff to offer. Now, look, in terms of ride count and things like that, it's really struggling, compared to Disneyland. But I think the park as it is a really fun little spot. I don't know. That's just me personally. And like I said, I go a lot of times and to the resort and will only go to DCA sometimes. I'm in a DCA kind of mood that day, So I don't know.
Preponderance of reservations would be made for Disneyland. Disneyland is always the one that people want to go to. DCA is secondary. It's just obvious. Now, that rule and that observation matters only if you are using the reservation system in such a way as to, and this is what they want us all to believe in it and everything,
and
to manage.
And Dave's mindset, and he's not wrong about fans always wanting Disneyland, is exactly why, to circle back, it's exactly why we need Pandora. This is exactly why we need Coco. This is exactly why we need these Avengers rides. They have to bring DC up to a higher standard. Now, while me personally, OG, I love DCA. I think it's a great park. But a lot of fans feel the way Dave does, where it's kind of expendable. It's very secondary. They got to bring this park up to much more of like, oh man, this is the park. This is a cool spot. It's a must see. You know what I'm saying? They got to bring it up to that level. And I think eventually, I think when all this is open with Coco and Avatar and all this stuff, I think it will be a very solid, very, very good sister park to Disneyland. But right now, it does need a little bit. Go ahead, conductor.
No, it does. And one thing I will say to David's point and to many of us that feel that way is DCA needs the help that it's getting finally. But what I think Disneyland or the Disney company wants to pivot to is make it just enough excitement where you have a hard choice. If you're not a Magic Key holder and you're a ticket holder, do I go to Disneyland or do I go to DCA? Because right now, according to what David said, it's an easy choice. Disneyland's preferred. DCA's secondary. But with 2 Avengers attractions, Avatar, Coco, people that are ticket holders, it's really going to be a hard choice on what park they want to do. And that's where a lot of us feel and want from Disney to do. Because DCA, it's a great vibes park. And you're a vibes guy, OG. I'm not going to deny it. But is vibes enough to sit there and justify paying the price or close to the same price that you can walking 50 feet the other direction and go in the Walt's original Magic Kingdom?
Right. And Disney is stuck between a rock and a hard place with that, because if you lower the price for DCA, that's Disney admitting it's a lesser experience. And that's why it's really tough. And that's why you got to bring DC up to as close as possible to Disneyland's level. So there's less of a gap. And the other thing too, if you have people coming from out of state or out of country, nobody is coming to Disneyland Resort and not going to Disneyland, right? Like if you're a family from Japan, you're going to Disneyland if you're coming down here. But DCA isn't always a given. Some people might opt out of DCA. Some people might come all the way down here from from Utah or whatever, or Iowa or Michigan or wherever, Japan, Australia, and they might just do Disneyland and they might skip DCA. The problem with that is if Disney were to make DCA more of a must go to park, you are guaranteeing yourself both parks are visited. You're getting more money, Disney. You are getting more money, because if the secondary park DCA is a must go to park, you're locking in both parks in. Because like I said, you're not going to fly all the way from Japan or Minnesota to not go to Disneyland. So if you can make it where DCA is not skippable and not expendable, you're locking in both parks. If it's always going to be the expendable thing, it's iffy then, because you can go to the resort and only go to Disneyland and it would be fine. So that's why we need these additions. That's why they really need to bulk it up. And you're right, I am a vibes guy, which is probably why I do like DCA so much. But if I was a rides guy, yeah, my opinion on DCA would be different, because it doesn't have a whole lot in terms of that.
It doesn't. And when you look at Walt Disney World for a prime example, OG, and everyone watching, when people go down there to experience that resort,
supplies, manage,
Sorry.
And let's say you don't have a vacation package and you have to pick and choose the 4 parks Walt Disney World has. I'm going to tell you right now, in my personal opinion, from what I've heard, there's nothing like Animal Kingdom. So people are going to go there. There's nothing like Epcot. People are going to go there. Do people really want to go experience Hollywood Studios? Maybe. Do they want to go experience the Magic Kingdom? Well, obviously, because it's a big staple. But is it something on a grander scale from what I've been told is what Disneyland is? Yes. It's just at a bigger scale. But if I was going out there without a vacation package and I was going out there and I had to pick and choose 2 parks out of the 4, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm choosing Epcot and I'm choosing Animal Kingdom because there's nothing like it. So that's where it ties back into DCA. They need to make DCA beefier, not just in attractions, not just in the entertainment, but capacity. They have to make it unique where that family from Japan or that family from Utah or that family from Iowa is saying, wow, I'm not just going to go to Disneyland. I have to go check out DCA. I have to do it. There's stuff in here I want to see.
Yeah. No, well said. Absolutely.
How much inventory they have on hand, manage cast member hours, and everybody having the right amount of supplies on hand and the right amount of cast on hand for a given day, because they know how many people are going to be in the park that day because of the reservation system. If that's the reason why you're having the reservation system, then you do have to have that reservation or that park hopping time limit. But if you take away that park hopping time, if you could park hop anytime you want from 8 a.m. to midnight, if you take that away, all the data that you're supposedly collecting about who's there and when, in terms of merchandise and supplies and cast and all that, it's all skewed. It's all completely skewed because you have no idea what the true number is. You have no idea what the actual number of guests are going to be at Disneyland at a given time, because they could be booking DCA, but they're actually at Disneyland. At least that's the way that I see it from my perspective, and it helps to reinforce the idea, something again that we've been saying for a long time, is that the true goal of the reservation system isn't necessarily to manage supply chains and all that stuff. It's to control who's in the park and when, especially Magic Key holders, annual pass holders. Those are the guests that they want to control the most. That's why you notice that there's hardly ever sold out dates for single day tickets and multi-day tickets. They're almost always available. It's the Magic Keys that have the hardest time making reservations, because they can just, well, I don't want to get, that's a whole nother conversation. It's a whole nother conspiracy theory. But they can just turn those on and off. They could just turn the reservations on and off depending on what they want to accomplish for that day. So it taking away the park hopping time gives more credence to that idea that it isn't really about supplies and cast. It's about controlling when I can go to the park as a Magic Key holder. What park can I go to? If it's, and sort of pushing us. It's the reason why I stopped going on the weekends, because they were never available. They were just never available. They were always sold out. So I've just started going during the week. I had to. If I wanted to go to Disneyland, I had to figure that out. So that's sort of the why that the park hopping rule existed. What's interesting is that, in terms of the reservation system, that the sort of conception is that COVID created that necessity, that it was COVID that forced Disney to have the reservation system. And while that's kind of true, it's not. The reservation system actually is not even new. We had a reservation system before COVID even hit. Do you guys remember the Flex Pass?
Yeah.
The annual pass called the Flex Pass. It was actually a tremendous value. It gave you almost similar access to the top tier annual pass, but it was cheap. It was super cheap. And the reason why it was because there were certain days you had to have a reservation. There were reservations required with the Flex Pass. Not every day, but the more popular days were reservation required. They had otherwise.
And that was the testing ground to have it for everybody. But here's the thing. I wonder if Disney will ever do like a soft reservation system. And what I mean by soft reservation system is kind of like what Universal does, right? Where I believe when you buy a ticket to go to Universal Studios Hollywood, you don't need a reservation, but you have to say what day you're going.
Yes.
So Universal still has data like who's going to be there, but you're not having to make a reservation though. Like maybe Disney can do something like that. What say you?
Well, okay, so when we look at this map here, I'm glad he brought this up. When you look at it, what I can see going forward is with the magic keys starting from the top all the way down, you can implement the system and have the flex pass system incorporated into each magic key. But the thing I state is when you look at the Inspire key, which is almost basically $2,000 a year, which is insane, but it is. It's reality. When you look at the Inspire key, there should be no blackout dates no matter what, because you're paying the highest price.
Right.
Granted. So the Flex Pass system should be incorporated for the Believe and all the way down to the bottom. The one thing I like about Walt Disney World is they finally got away from restricting the reservation system so hard. So they said basically, if you're a pass holder, that's what they call themselves out there. If you're a pass holder, you can just show up whenever you want, unless it's during a time of the season where it gets a little crazy with crowds, with attendance and all that. Then you have to make a reservation, but they don't force it on people every single time. Now, I like the system as well, because if you click on it, just like you're saying with Universal Hollywood, and I'm sure it's the same thing with Universal Orlando, if you click on it, no matter what magic key you are, it's still giving Disney data. So they could go down this method of incorporating this into the magic key system, because Thomas even said during that media event, they are looking at different ways to innovate the magic key program. They acknowledge that they're still working on the magic key program. That's not perfect yet, and it's far from perfect. So this would be a way to incorporate something that they had before and incorporate it into the new system. That way you're not forcing reservations on people, because I remember back in the early 2000s, man. I remember.
Yeah.
But like you said, you go to work in the morning, maybe early afternoon, you get off, you tell your buddy, you call him up, hey, Brian, you want to go hang out at Disneyland for the night, go check out some fireworks, go eat at Carnation's Cafe, go hit some rides? Yeah, sure, I'll meet you down there in an hour. That's not the case here. That might be the case at Walt Disney World,
right?
But right now, you have to have a reservation no matter what magic key you are or ticket holder. You have to have a reservation. That's why it kind of deters people and say, you know what, screw this, because they're like, I'm sick of that. Now,
you can't do the spontaneous visits anymore.
No,
it's hard. I mean, it's very difficult,
No, now I do kind of sort of agree with David on the COVID thing, but you and I have talked about it. They've been talking about reservation systems, and clearly they already had something like this in place way before COVID. COVID gave Disney the opportunity to implement it without anyone complaining about it, because they had the park shut down for over 400 days.
Right. Logistically, they could do it, right, because it was a reboot of the whole thing. Because it's hard to implement something like this when the system is up and running. But when everything's shut down, you can implement this thing when it reopens. So yeah, you're right. They've been wanting to do this for a while, and then COVID gave them the ability, because of that kind of that reset, to actually do it. So
good to go dates, which is something that's the term that didn't exist then, but it does today. We're going to get to that in a minute with respect to Walt Disney World. But the Flex Pass was and that's a Tomorrow thing. I'm pretty sure that was done under Tomorrow's watch. So they had always wanted a reservation system. Disney did, as well as paid Fast Pass and a better deal on annual passes, which again, we'll talk about that in a second. But Disney had long desired to have a reservation system, and the Flex Pass was their first attempt at doing that. And what happened is COVID happened, and that actually gave them cover. It gave them a a logical, let me backtrack. They wouldn't do the reservation system pre-COVID, and they wouldn't have done paid fast pass pre-COVID because of the optics. It looked bad. It especially the paid fast pass that made Disney look, like it was a money grab. As much as they do want to do these money grabs, they don't want to look like they're doing that. They like the idea of being being perceived as a family-friendly park that has affordable options for the family. That's why we still have the $108, that tier 0 ticket. That's why that still exists. They have never, that price has not changed in 5 years, I think. It's been a while. Because they like to have that image of being affordable, even though we know it's not. At least it's getting less and less affordable. But what COVID did was give them that cover, that excuse, a justifiable and reasonable excuse that we would have all been like, yeah, okay, I get it, I understand. Because what COVID did is they said, all right, you can only fit 10,000 people in the park, social distancing and all that. These were rules. And the only way you could do that, and it makes perfect sense, the only way you could do that is to limit the number of people in the park. And the way you limit the number of people in the park is by having a reservation system. Boom, done. Reservation system is now a thing. And then they started doing paid fast pass after that. And then they also changed the value proposition for annual passes. Again, whole nother conversation. But the reservation system is not a new concept in that regard. Now, we're bringing that up because it's part and parcel to why that park hopping time existed. Now, the question is, if the park hopping time limit, 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. or whatever the case may be, if that was required because of the reservation system, in order to better manage their data, then is the inverse true? Is the opposite the same? If there's no longer a park hopping requirement, does that mean that there's no longer is the reservation system no longer necessary? Well, kind of, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that the answer is yes. It should be anyway. Now it's not, and there's two reasons why that might be. Well, you know what? Let me go back to that. Let's talk about answering that other question that we asked at the top of the show. What can we learn from what's happening already at Walt Disney World? Because Walt Disney World is 2 years ahead of Disney on this conversation. Walt Disney World had a reservation system as well. Almost the same type of thing that we had there, and they had park hopping rules, etc. You couldn't park hop until 1 o'clock, I think it was. A while ago, I want to say maybe a year, at least more than 2 years, maybe. They said, you know what, forget it. Single day ticket holders, you don't even need to make a reservation. I mean, when you buy a ticket, you have to pick a day, and you're buying a ticket for that day. That's necessary because of the tiered pricing, the flex pricing. So they have to, in terms of demand. So they want to sell you the right price ticket. They have to know what day you want to go so they can sell you the right price. But if you just don't show up, if you just don't go, then you just get a credit. You have a ticket for another day. I don't know I know you have to pay the difference if the day you bought is less than the day you're going to go, whatever day you wind up going. I don't think you get a refund, to be honest. I haven't really actually thought about that. I just know that the other situation.
I'm pretty sure they're non-refundable, but even that though, like I mentioned earlier, having to pick a day is giving Disney some data in regards to like who's going to be there that day. Maybe not as accurate as a reservation system, but they're getting some data there, And I will say this, and he's going to dive into Walt Disney World and stuff too, but he might even make the same point. But Disney World is sort of a different animal though than Disneyland. Disney World does not have the massive amount of pass holders and locals like we do. And I think if it wasn't for the huge demand of those magic keys where people can hop in and out of this resort whenever, because we have a lot of locals, I think if it wasn't for the locals, I really do believe that reservation system we would have what Disney World has essentially. You know what I'm saying? It's just, we can't do it out here really because, I mean, not to say we can't, but I think Disney really wants to manage the key holders big time. So
exists, but basically there's no reservation system required for date-based tickets, for single and multi-day tickets at Walt Disney World. And then Walt Disney World. This was, not long. I mean, well, maybe a year and a half ago at least, I think. No, 2 years at least now. They relaxed the requirements for Magic Keys for their annual pass holders. They have good to go dates now where no reservation is required. There's a certain selection of calendar days that just, it's the green circle, I think it is. If it's a green circle, you don't have to worry about it. But you really don't have to worry about it at all, because if you look at the calendar, like let's just take a look at right now at February and March, not a single sold out date. Not a single sold out date. And that is typically the case for any month that you choose, except for the highest, the peakest days. Only the most busiest time frames is there a question about whether or not I've been, to Walt Disney World a few times in the past couple of years or so. I've made, I don't know, dozens and dozens of reservations, and I've never once not had a day that I wanted be available to me. It was always available. I've never had a problem. The reservation system is essentially pointless at Walt Disney World. And I talk about all that, and I say all that because they still have it. Even though it's pointless, even though it's unnecessary, they still have it. Why? Well, and that's the reason why I don't think it's going to be the end of the reservation system here. And it's because they still want that data. They still want to know who, they want to have a general idea, even though it's not something that they can really bank on. It's not exact. They still want to have a general idea of how many people in the park. So while I would say in the past, oh no, it's, the reservation system is 100% about controlling when we're in the park, here at Disneyland, that may still be true, actually. I don't think you can get rid of the reservation system, even to the extent that they have at Walt Disney World here at Disneyland, because of the large local fan base, because of the large population of Magic Key holders. I think they still want to have that control. Learning what I have from Walt Disney World, it doesn't matter. It's not necessary, but they still want to do it because they still want to have that data. So that does actually support the idea that they're using it to manage supply chains, et cetera, and cast member hours. I don't know if I can say the same here at Disneyland. I guess it is still true, and we'll see. We'll find out how far they take this, because it is just an incremental shift to getting rid of it. The park hopping time is actually, even though it seems like nothing, it is kind of a big deal in that sense. It reduces just the pure necessity of having that anyway. I do still think that they want to have that control over Magic Keys, and I think they still want that data, which is why they've never gotten rid of it, even though there's not a single other theme park. The theme parks are doing the flex pricing. All other theme parks like Universal and Knott's, et cetera, are still doing the flex pricing, but they aren't making you make a reservation. But I digress. The reason I feel like it's,
and he's going to get into it too, but like the reason for that is the demand, the Magic Key demand is unlike any other. It really is. I mean, Universal is as amazing as Universal is, and I'm honestly at Universal more than I'm at Disney these days. I love Universal Hollywood. It's a really fun spot, but they don't have the annual pass holder demand there like Disneyland. I mean, so the reservation system isn't really needed over there. They're fine. They're good with this. Disneyland, I'm telling you, if you open those floodgates, and really what they could do, though, I will say this: if they really wanted to mitigate if they really want to mitigate the Magic Key situation, what you could do, though, you could get rid of the reservation system, but also drop the monthly payments. The monthly payments are a big reason why we have so many key holders. If you make everyone pay $2,000 up front, that's a different conversation than a deposit and monthly payments. I mean, people can usually afford $150 a month. It's a lot harder to drop, $2,000 out the gate up front. So if they really want to mitigate the key holder issue, getting rid of that payment plan stuff would go a long way. And then you could get rid of the reservation system. So it just kind of depends on what they want to do, I guess.
We're that much closer to, but I digress. But the reason why I say we're that much closer, that we're just so close to it being the reservation system in general being pointless, at least to the extent that it is at Walt Disney World, is just try to imagine a scenario where you make a reservation for DCA. Let's say that let's say that Disney goes ahead and says, okay, we're going to have a limit to how many people can make a reservation for Disneyland. And then when that starts, then we're going to start forcing you to make a reservation for DCA under these new rules without the park hopper requirement. Let's just say that that happens. And let's say that you do that. You book DCA because Disneyland is sold out, which it's not technically sold out. It's just there's no more reservation slots available. So let's say you show up at 8 a.m. to DCA, and then you just go to Disneyland. Like, just even that. Okay, let's just assume that they're, well, okay, let me back that up. Let's imagine that under this new system, that they still require you to check in to your reserved park. So you make that reservation for DCA. Let's say they still require you to scan into DCA. Then you just walk right out and go to Disneyland. That could be a rule that they put into effect, that it won't last, mind you, that it won't last because it'll take exactly a half an hour for so many people to like, what do you mean? What do you mean? There's no park hopping time. Why can't I? Because here's what happens. I don't know if you're aware of this, but today there is a rule that if you scan into a park, let's say you scan into Disneyland and then you turn right around, let's say it's even at 11, whatever, it doesn't matter. You turn right around and go over to DCA, even though you're after the park hopping time frame. Let's say it's noon, but you scan in Disneyland and then you leave immediately and go scan in DCA. You're going to get a boing. You're going to get a boop and a beep, and a cast member at the gate is going to say, "What's up? What are you doing? What are you doing?" And invariably, the answer is, "Well, I was only there for a minute. I found a friend, and we came over here," or something like that. But what they're trying to eliminate is people sharing their tickets. Not quite scalping, but there's a whole subculture of people trying to sneak into Disneyland. Okay, this is one of those anti-sneak rules. But okay, so that's why that exists. That's why I bring that up. So what if you get into DCA at 8 a.m. and you say, "But I don't want to go DCA. There's no park hopping time limit. I can park up anytime I want." So they made me, and then Disney says, "Well, you can't. You got to wait a half an hour." That's stupid. that's just idiotic. It makes no sense. You're telling me I can't go. I have a ticket that has no park hopping requirements. Let me in. And people are going to be so upset. And there's going to be so many complaints. They're just going to say, what are we even doing here? Why are we even bothering this? This is silly. So they'll take that rule down, assuming that they even have one. I kind of think that I'm hoping that there's enough forethought happening here, foresight, that they're going to envision that scenario if they do try that. So, okay, so they don't. Why then do we even have a reservation system? If you could just buy a ticket for either park, show up whenever you want, and go to any park you want, why even have a reservation system? And the real answer is you don't need it, but we're going to keep it. They're going to keep it because they still want to have that data. Now, the good news is that they're not going to be able to use it to force people into the park they want. They're not going to be able to use it to force you into DCA when Disneyland is too busy. The bad news is that it'll still work. It'll still work to keep me out of the park. The reservation system will still work to keep me out of going to Disneyland on a day that they don't want me to go, on a Saturday or Sunday. And it will still give them some data for the guests in the park. How many people are going to be in the park on a given day. Even though that number is still subject to change greatly because there's basically no limit. A very small limit on single day and multi-day tickets. They're trying to sell more tickets. They're not trying to sell less. That's always been a concept that I found kind of funny. I don't think they're trying to suppress ticket sales. They just did they've got the kids $50 ticket going on right now. They've got that California resident ticket going on right now. Super, super great savings. These are amazing ticket deals. They want more people in the park. So I don't, it's not about that. They want to sell as many as they can. They just want to make sure that magic keys aren't getting in the way of that. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm saying here. Those are the basics. There is no park hopping limit. There doesn't need to be one. The reservation system probably doesn't need to be here because of that. If they're not going to have a park hopping limit, then they probably shouldn't have a reservation system, but it's not going to go away. Best case scenario is that we wind up modeling or mirroring the system that's in place at Walt Disney World. That's how I project that.
Yeah, I just don't know if that's going to even happen, to be honest with you, just because we have a different demographic out here and we have so many locals and stuff. But who knows? We'll see. But another great video from Dave. Go ahead, conductor.
No, 100%. I completely agree. One thing I want to ask you on that, and again, you've been at Disneyland in the early 2000s, late 90s.
Oh yeah.
I want to ask you how Disney was able to accomplish not having this problem with the annual passes, where we had the physical cards and all that, to now almost 10 years ago, they started implementing the Magic Key system, and now they have this problem. But before, they didn't have this problem. So how in the hell did we go from not having a problem to now a problem?
I think the biggest catalyst, the biggest point in time that started to create a major problem for Disneyland Resort was when they started allowing monthly payments on those passes. When I had my annual pass, I think it was the Premier. Was it Premier? No, I forgot what it was called back then. Was it Premier or Signature? I forgot the name. Anyway, years and years ago, like the early 2000s, right? When you would get an annual pass, if the annual pass was $600, you paid $600 that day. That was it. You know, when they started implementing, which was I think in and around 2009-ish, they started doing those monthly payment plans. You got a lot more people in the system now. So if they really want to mitigate the key holders, just get rid of that monthly payment thing. The problem with doing that now, though, if they were to go back and do that, you know, Dave is saying, he makes a great point. Disney loves to seem like there's affordable options. If you take away the monthly payment option, you look like kind of this greedy corporation keeping people out. You know what I'm saying? You look bad now because you've had it and now you're taking that away. It looks bad. But when they started those monthly payments, that's what changed everything. There's way too many Magic Keys in the system because of that monthly payment thing. So I think that's what's changed, but we'll see, you know. But another great video from Dave from Fresh Baked. He's I'm telling you, man, Dave is a Disneyland legend. He is an absolute Disneyland California legend. We love Dave. Subscribe to Fresh Baked Presents down below. Conductor, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on YouTube and Blue Sky at Theme Park Conductor, on Instagram at theme_park_conductor, on X at Theme Conductor, TikTok at Theme Park Conductor 1, and every Sunday at 5 or 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Conductor Sunday live stream, where we have amazing guests like the one and only Orange Grove 55 and so many others as we talk about the parks. We speculate, we talk rumors, we interact with the chat interacts with us. It's such a great time. And this coming Sunday, I do have 2 items that I'm going to debut for our channel members over on Theme Park Conductor, that I will be sending those out as a thank you gift for being part of the membership program for Theme Park Conductor. But stay tuned for that announcement this Sunday at 7 p.m.
There he is, everybody. Support Mr. Theme Park Conductor. His information down below, his channel, and also follow him on Instagram and X. And also, if you can, try to become a member on his channel. I want to thank you, Conductor. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank Dave, the one and only Dave from Fresh Baked. Thank him very, very much for, again, making great content. Dave is such a treasure in our community, and we love the work that he does. And Dave, if by any chance that you ever watch this video, if you do watch this, just to let you know, as a fandom, we appreciate you a lot. So keep doing the great work that you do. Thank you for watching this episode of OG 55.
Thank you so much for watching OG55. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and become a member today.